Hello and welcome to our webinar. I'm very excited to open this webinar. I'm Jacob Ornstein, currently leading the Israel Society for Research and Prevention of Sexually Transmitted Infections. Joining me today are some of my good friends who are also top experts in lower genital tract diseases. We put together this webinar after some friends from around the world offered to help us out during a tough time here. A big shout out to Dr. Jean-Luc Mergui from the IFCPC, International Federation for Cervical Pathology and Colposcopy, and for Dr. Pedro Vieira Baptista, Secretary General for the ISSVD, International Society for the Study of Vulvovaginal Disease, for really pushing for their involvement in today's event. Huge thanks to all our speakers who make the time for this. Today, we're all about fighting HPV-associated cancer, inspired by the WHO's initiative to eliminate cervical cancer. We are looking forward to hearing about the efforts in different countries to make this happen. It's all about sharing knowledge and practical tips we can all use. Now, quick heads up on how things will work during this webinar. If you get a question, just write the questions in the Q&A box below. Also, let us know to which speaker you are asking. After my last talk, we will have a panel discussion to go through your questions. Here is another tip. Right next to the Q&A section, there's a button labeled Show Captions. If you enable it, you'll be able to see the presenter's words as text. It might get a bit garbled at times, but it's worth a try. Just so you know, we are recording this webinar and you will find it later on the websites of all the societies involved. Now I will introduce our esteemed speakers. And I'll introduce them one after the other. First, Jean-Luc Mergui from France, from Paris. He's the president of the IFCPC, the International Society of Cervical Pathology and Colposcopy. Teresa Freeman Wang from the United Kingdom is with us. She is the president of the British Society of Colposcopy and Cervical Pathology, and also the president-elect of the International Society for Cervical Pathology and Colposcopy, the IFCPC. Also here, Carlos Humberto Perez Moreno from Colombia. Carlos is the past president of the IFCPC, and Silvio Tati from Argentine, who is also a past president of the IFCPC. With us also, Dr. Evripidis Bilirakis, a good friend from Greece, from Athens. He's a Secretary General for the Hellenic Colposcopic Society. From Austria comes Dr. Elmar Jura. He is the past president of the European College of Vulvovaginal Disease and a past executive board member of the ISSVD. Dr. Mario Preti from Italy is with us also. He is a past president of the ISSVD. And as I mentioned before, Dr. Pedro Vieira Baptista from Porto in Portugal, who is currently the Secretary General of the ISSVD. I will now briefly present the local faculty. Dr. Ofer Davidi, he will be moderating the first session. He's Secretary General of the Israel Society for the Study and Prevention of Sexually Transmitted Infection. Professor Yasmin Maor is the treasurer of that society. Dr. Ari Rice is the chair of the Israel Society for Colposcopy and Cervical and Vulvar Pathology. Dr. Gabi Haran is the treasurer of that society, and Dr. Orna Reichman is the secretary of the Israel Society for Colposcopy and Cervical and Vulvar Pathology. Also with us is Professor Tzvi Vaknin, who is the chair of the Israel Society of GYN Oncology, and Professor Rivka Karmi, who is the chair of the Israel National Academy for Science in Medicine. So actually, we are representative of, I would say, quite a few societies, and it's a great honor. And now I will first up hear greetings from the leaders of the societies that are with us today, and I will start by asking Dr. Jean-Luc Mergui from Paris to start and greet us. Dr. Mergui, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jacob, for your introduction and to organize in such a period very hard for Israel to organize such a meeting against cervical disease and more generally HPV-related disease, the cervical, vagina, and vulvar disease, which are due to HPV. And I think we may have during this afternoon or evening or morning for some areas, we'll have a very good overview of the problem in Europe, Italy, France, UK, and in South America, which is different area. And I think that when we will finish our session, we'll have a very good overview. And I want to thank you very much, Jacob, and to the Israeli Society of Colposcopy of Sexually Transmitted Disease, and all your colleagues to organize and to be present during this afternoon. And I think we will have a very interesting, and the role of the IFCPC, as you know, is to favorize exchanges, scientific exchanges in between the nations. And we will have today a very good and very interesting exchange between all the nations you invited to be during this webinar. Thank you very much, Jacob, and thank you very much for your colleague from your country.
Thank you so much, Jean-Luc, and thank you for helping me with organizing this session. And now Dr. Pedro Vieira Baptista for the ISSVD.
Shalom Aleichem, and I apologize if I mispronounced it. I trained, but I'm not so sure if it went well. I would like to thank Professor Bornstein for inviting the ISSVD and for inviting me to be present in this session. Obviously, HPV is a very important topic. No need to say this to this audience, but these indeed are hard days for Israel. And as we know, we must stay with friends. And that's why it's truly an honor to be here with all of you, and also to show a bit of our experience with HPV vaccination in my country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you very much for your participation, for the ISSVD for helping and participating. It is now my honor to call upon Professor Rivka Karmi, who's the president of the Israeli National Academy for Science in Medicine. Professor Karmi.
Dear faculty and audience, welcome. On behalf of the Israeli National Academy of Science in Medicine, by the Israeli Medical Association, an academy of which Professor Borenstein, the co-chair for this conference, is a senior member, I would like to express to you my sincere gratitude. First, as a woman physician, for your presence here to discuss the highly important topic of modern approaches to combating female malignancy caused by HPV. This virus that is causing worldwide more than 500,000 cases of cervical cancer, but also male oropharyngeal cancer, can be best eliminated by increasing compliance of vaccinations among the young. Once inflicted, however, adequate monitoring and targeted treatment of the cancer can effectively and significantly improve prognosis. This webinar, I understand, is further supporting and enhancing the WHO global effort in this regard. And second, I would like to express my appreciation for your participation in an Israel-based webinar in these trying times for the country. As gynecologists and researchers of women cancer, I'm sure you've all were very dismayed and appalled by the atrocious violence exerted on Israeli women on October 7th of 2023. Women in Israel were assaulted, raped, mutilated, burned, murdered, and kidnapped as war trophies by these infamous Hamas terrorists. This kind of atrocities against women is unacceptable on any possible level, yet is not unanimously condemned, especially by organizations that are supposed to act on behalf of the best interests and well-being of women. This webinar, however, presents your clinical and scientific commitments to the health and well-being of women wherever they are. And for that, I thank you very much, and I wish you a very fruitful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Karmi, for discussing these issues. And now we have Dr. Ari Rice, who is the chair of the Israeli Society of Cervical Pathology, Vulvar, and Colposcopy. Dr. Rice, please.
In times of crisis, our health often takes a back seat. Yet it's precisely during these moments that advocating for preventing measures becomes paramount. HPV related to cancers do not pose for crisis, and neglecting health today compounds challenges tomorrow. Let's empower ourselves amidst uncertainty. Routine screening, vaccinations, and awareness initiatives are not mere tasks. They're acts of resilience. By prioritizing preventing healthcare, we strengthen our healthcare systems, making them more resilient in times of need. Before we move on, a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed international experts who have devoted the time to contribute to their expertise enriches our collective understanding and accelerates our progress. And a special thanks to Professor Bornstein, whose dedication and organizational prowess have brought us together for this crucial event. Your leadership is steering us forward, impactful discussion and solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rice. And last but not least, Professor Vaknin, who is the chair of the Israel Society of GYN Oncology. Professor Vaknin.
Good evening, all. I join my colleagues and thank you all for your willingness to join us in these hard times. We see medicine as the best bridge for doing good for humanity, and HPV-associated cancer elimination is one of our major goals, fighting cancer, which is actually achievable. We hope to see all of you in Israel in the future. Best regards from me and my colleagues in the Israeli Society of Gynecologic Oncology.